Let's look at 11 tips that you can use to prepare for a jazz gig with a small group. I've broken them down into 3 categories: things that you can do before the gig, during the gig, and after the gig. And I think they'll really help you out. Make a point of asking the band leader for a set list or at least a suggestion of some tunes they like to play on a gig. When you're doing this, make sure you ask what key they like to play it in. A lot of musicians will play songs in book keys, which is the standard key, but musicians have reasons for changing the keys. A lot of times if you're playing with a vocalist, they'll change the key to fit their vocal range, and sometimes instrumentalists like to change the key either for arrangement purposes or just for a challenge. Once you know what songs you've got on your plate, you've got to listen to those songs, track down iconic recordings, put together a playlist, and have that going as much as possible. You really want to get the sound of those songs in your ears. From there, track down lead sheets or music for the songs. The band leader may have lead sheets available for you, or they might have original arrangements that they have sheet music for. In this day and age, it's really easy to share all of that online. For my trio, I have a Google folder with all of the charts and even reference recordings in there that I can just share with anyone who's going to do the gig. If they don't have charts, do some research on the internet. It's amazing what you can pull up, and there's plenty of sources where you can buy individual lead sheets for songs that are pretty accurate. Ideally, if you're playing standards, you've got some of those in your head. Jazz is an oral art form. It's not something where you want to be looking at sheet music all the time. It's just going to get in the way. But if you don't have those in your head, then track down some music so that you've got something to work from. Once you've organized all of the information, it's time to dig in and build some familiarity with these songs. I would start by making sure you know what groove is connected with which song. Swing does constitute a lot of jazz, but it's not the only thing, so you've got to be aware of any differences. If you're playing a Latin tune, don't just stop there. You've got to know, is it a bossa nova? Is it a samba? Is it a son montuno? Is it a cha-cha-cha? There are a lot of different grooves that it could potentially be. If it's a funky jazz tune, I would refer to a recording because a lot of those have very specific bass lines that go along with them. From there, make sure that you know the form of the song. Once we've held down the groove, we're keeping the time consistent and we're outlining the harmony. Our next essential job is outlining the form. If we're aware of the different sections, then we can structure our bass lines so they anticipate changes coming up. So you can have contrast sections where your bass line changes things up. So for example, people might just know we're in the B section. You can feed that to other musicians, and you should be doing that, but you've got to be aware of the form to be able to do that. From there, you've got to make sure you understand the harmony for each song. Go through the arpeggios. Make sure that you understand the chord scale relationships for each song. This is going to allow you, especially when you're creating walking bass lines, to outline the harmony in a confident and definitive way, but it's also going to allow you to be creative as you are making your bass lines and create something that can simultaneously feed the harmony to your fellow musicians while inspiring them. From there, I would learn the melody to each song. It helps you get the form in your head. It helps you make connections with the harmony. And if you're going to be taking a bass solo, it gives you a great launching point. After that, use a tool like iReal Pro to go through and practice the grooves on all the songs. iReal Pro is an amazing resource when you're trying to practice for gigs. You can look up just about any standard. You can write chord changes in there for original songs. You can practice at various tempos and different styles. I highly recommend it, and it's a great way to get things under your fingers as you're going into a gig. If you know you're going to solo on a particular song, you can spend some extra time with those chord changes, really nailing down arpeggios, chord scale relationships. But you might not know. It might be undefined. It might be something that happens in the moment on the gig. And remember, you are not there to solo. Your primary role is to lay down the groove, serve as a foundation for your fellow musicians, let them feel the time, let them hear the harmony, let them hear the form, sometimes feed them a little inspiration, but that is what you are going to be doing the majority of the time. If you go through a gig and you never take a solo, that's A-okay. But you know what? You can always throw it out to the band leader. If you are really hoping to get some solo time in there, let them know. They can always say no, and that would be okay. If you make yourself known, they might be more likely to throw you a solo here and there. The first thing you need to do has nothing to do with your playing, but when you get to the gig, set up to record. This is so easy to do these days. You can just set your phone nearby, press record, and you're good to go. I have a simple little tripod that I bring to gigs so I can get a good angle, but whatever you can do works. This isn't about getting great audio or getting great video. This is just about getting a record of the gig that you can look back objectively upon after you're done playing. And most importantly, this is a set it and forget it type of thing. You don't want to be worrying about your phone or about the video or the audio while you're playing. Just set it, get it going, and then walk away. Once you do start playing, you've got to be playing for the context. You should be playing differently in a trio than you would in a quartet, than a quintet, or behind a vocalist. They all require a different approach. Personally, I feel like the more people you have involved in the group, the more restrained you need to have your playing as a bass player. When I play with my trio, I feel like there's lots of opportunity for interaction, communication, and opening things up a little bit. You put a sax player in front of that, a trumpet player, and right away, I'm thinking more about foundation, outlining chords, giving good time, outlining the form, and every once in a while, putting in a spark of inspiration, but I right away nail down the foundation and be that rock for the group. Put a vocalist in front of the group, and I am really trying to be that invisible bass player that no one notices unless you're not there. You want to be just laying down the foundation and getting out of the way so the spotlight can be on that vocalist. We do a lot of things in the practice room to grow as musicians and expand our artistic possibilities. But 9 out of 10 times, it's best to leave those things in the practice room. We are on the gig to serve as a foundation. Our job is not to show the crowd or the other musicians on the gig all the things that we've been practicing, all the things we can do that are outside the realm of the gig. You are there to hold down the fort, to give good time, outline the harmony, outline the form. Do that first. If you get a solo, you may have an opportunity to share some of those things that you've been working on, or not. Really play to the music, play to the gig, and don't get worried about showing everyone all the things you can do. Give them the music they came there for. This next one is probably the hardest thing to do, but also the most important. You don't need to be thinking about which arpeggio you're supposed to be playing, which scale you're supposed to be playing, which cool rhythmic idea goes in there. All of those academic things that we have worked on in the practice room were part of practice. Practice is over. Now you are playing the gig. So you've got to work with the things that are under your fingers and get lost in the music. The second you start thinking about what am I supposed to do, you lose track of what you are doing. So you've got to really just go with the flow of what you've got to offer and give it to the other musicians and the audience. This doesn't mean play it safe. If you hear something that's slightly beyond your ability level that would really make the music sail, then you should go for it. You may hit something amazing and you may end up sailing with the music, or you might flub it and you might crash and burn. But that's where the magic lives in the music. So you've got to go for it. Got to be honest with yourself, though. You don't need to throw in that thing that you've been practicing if that's not what the music requires. There's a small chance that it might. But if it doesn't, throwing it in is actually going to kill the magic in the music. Listen and really respond to what the music needs, not what you want to play. After you finish the gig, it's really important to give yourself props for doing that. Every gig is an opportunity to grow as a musician, and that's worth celebrating. And the cool thing about jazz gigs is that generally every night is different, and there are different things that you need to think about, respond to, and cover. That's not easy, and you were part of that, so celebrate that. On the other hand, it's unavoidable that some things could have gone better. Music is a lifetime journey, and with every gig, we grow a little bit. Whether you've played for a short time or have been playing for a lifetime, there's always things we can improve upon. So look back on the gig and think about those times where you think, well, I wish this could have gone better, or I wish I would have done this in the moment, and make note of them. Maybe you have an app on your phone where you can make a list like this, or you have a notebook where you could actually write them down. But I would definitively make a list that you can come back to. From there, you need to go back and you need to listen to and you need to watch that recording. The great thing about recordings is they don't lie. All the things you did really well are going to be sparkling and inspiring. And all of the things that you need to work on, well, they're going to be there and you can't run away from them. But here's the important thing. Listen to it with a non-critical ear. Find the things that went well, find the things that need work, and go back to that place you have, whether it's an app, a notebook, whatever, and add them to the list, write them down so you can think about them later. Then give yourself some space and come back to your list and go back over the things that you think could have gone better or the things you want to improve upon. Look at the core of the problem and find some specifics that you can work on. Did you feel you didn't quite hit the chords on a song? Maybe you need to go back and practice those arpeggios more. Did you mix up the form? Maybe you need to go back through, make sure you know the number of measures in the form, make sure you know the different sections. Maybe you need to listen to recordings of it a bunch of times to get that form in your ear. Whatever it is, figure out those specifics and then put it into your practice routine so you're building as you look towards the next gig. And then it starts all over again. The cool thing about music is it is a lifetime process. And once one gig ends, the preparation and the looking forward to the next gig begins. So you can just go through the cycle and grow each time as you work towards being the musician that you want to be. Thanks for hanging out with me, everyone. Try these tips and see how they go for you as you're getting ready for your next jazz gig. And let me hear about it. I want to hear your stories. Put them down in the comments and tell me how things went. Or maybe you've got different ideas about how to prepare for a gig or what you do on the gig that makes it work for you, or even about ideas how you reflect after the gig. Put them all down in the comments so we can continue the conversation, and you might help out someone else in the community that's watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, hit like, give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications so you can hear about all the upcoming videos, and I will be seeing you soon.